Well, good morning. I'm here at Melbourne Airport. I'm just waiting at the arrival area and pretty excited because I've got Jatinder flying down from Sydney, and we're going to be shooting a video on the Hind Technology's MASSO controller today.
Shut up and sit down.
G'day mate, how are you buddy?
Hi,
Nice to meet
nice
you.
to see you.
Jump in.
How are you?
Camera in your face, it's all on mate. There we go. How was your flight? Good?
It was very good, yeah,
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
Oh,
thanks for picking me up.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming down to Melbourne. It's
No
finally
worries.
great to meet you.
Oh, same here, mate.
All right,
Been
well-
looking forward to this.
We're off to breakfast now, so
Oh, okay.
all right, cool.
Okay, so we're going to just show some steps on how to upgrade your MASSO on new software updates that you get. So we'll do an example of the new software update that we just recently did. So that's version 3. So we're going to start off by plugging in a USB drive on your computer, and the next step is basically the software file that you get from us. So we already have this file, and you can see the serial number. So it says 878. So that's the serial number that Aaron has on his machine. So basically we're going to copy that file. So I'll right click, copy, and put in the USB. So a few points we need to remember on this is basically don't put this file in any folder. It has to be on the root of the USB. So that means just straight on the USB itself, and don't rename the file. So for example, don't have anything like copy in front of it or anything. So I'll just Control Z. So leave it like that, because otherwise the system won't be able to find the file and it will skip the update. So now the file's there. We're going to just safely remove it. There we go. And yeah, now we're going to plug that to the MASSO and do the upgrade on the machine itself.
So you've just seen Jatinder on the screenshot before, showing you how to get your version 3 onto your USB stick. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to plug this USB stick into my controller. I'm going to power off, power up again, and it should go through its loading phase, uploading into the controller. And when we're actually doing that, we'll jump to another camera and we'll come in a bit closer so you, the viewer, can see for yourself the difference. Now, what I want you to look for is the difference in the screen. So version 3 to version 2, it's a totally different screen, and you'll see this in the video. We're going to plug this into the USB port. Now, for the sake of the video, I've used the USB extension cord just to highlight what I'm actually doing. So the controller's to my right here. So here we go. I'm going to plug it in. I'm plugging it in while the MASSO and the screen is powered up. I'm going to go through a power cycle now. So that means turning off the power and returning it back on again. Here we go now. MASSO is disarmed. It's turned off. I'm going to reboot now by turning it on. Okay, you can see now that it's finished uploading. And what we're going to do now, we're going to leave the USB stick plugged in, and we're going to power cycle the machine. So we're going to switch it off and switch it on again. So the machine is switched off. We're recycling now. You notice the logo has changed. first thing you'll probably see from the controller is my three-axis controller has now gone to a 5-axis controller. So Jatinder has upgraded my MASSO to a 5-axis version now. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that in the screen there, but you can actually see X, Y, Z, A and B. However, maybe I know I want to play with a 4th axis, but that'll be down the track sometime. So you'll notice from the screen it's currently in an F3 status, which is the jog mode. I need to go to F1 now to do the setup screen. Now I'm going to hand the video back over to Jatinder because it's a new control software and a different layout, and Jatinder will, I think it's best for him to take us through the video to show you what to do. So when I press F1, you can see here, and you'll notice the parameters are different, and it looks really exciting because you've got heaps of options. Notice the inputs and outputs.
Quickly take you guys through the actual process of setting up all the inputs and outputs, your sensors. So we'll start off by entering the password. So by default, MASSO ships with HTG password, and it's in capital letters. You can see a little A sign here that tells you that the caps lock is on. And now I'll type HTG and press enter. So now you have access to your screen. So basically we've divided up the screen in 3 different parts. So this one has all the functions. The next one is the inputs. That's where we configure all the inputs, and we can actually even see the status of all the inputs. And the similar one on the right hand side is for the output. So we can configure the outputs, we can change the status and all those things. So we're going to start off with the first menu, that's the homing. So simply how to navigate first. So I'm using the up and down arrow key to go between these. I can press page down, page up. If I press tab, I can go to the next one. Down arrow, page down, up arrow, basically how you use the keyboard on this. So for homing, I'm going to press enter, and now you see in this homing screen, basically in this new version you can actually have your own homing sequence. You can program this according to your machine, how you want to home your machine. So basically you have, because it's a 5-axis version we're running on Aaron's machine, so you'll basically see all those 5 axes, then you have 5 sequence. So in the first sequence, for example in this one, it's going to home all 3 axes. That's kind of not correct for Aaron's machine setup. So firstly you generally home the Z axis. So what I'll do is that X is selected at the moment, pressing the space bar toggles the tick box. So I'm going to untick that, press tab, untick that. So that way in the first sequence only Z axis will home, and then I'll keep pressing tab, go to the second sequence, and then I'll click X, Y, keep on doing that again. We don't want to home Z again, not even the B axis. Not even the x-axis. So basically now there's only 2 sequences. The first sequence, the z-axis will home, and then once that's done, the x and y-axis will home. So the reason we do this on the mills is basically when you want to home, you want to move your z-axis up so you can get away from the job. So when you're homing, it doesn't hit the job or anything. The rest is kind of similar to the old setup. So these are the direction inverts. So let's say if when you're homing, the machine is not actually homing towards the sensor, it's homing away, you can invert these, and that will change the direction of the motion. Then you have the homing feed rate, the feed rate at which you want to home your machine, the pull-off distance. So that's basically the distance. Once you come closer to the sensor, the MASSO detects the sensor, homes itself, and then you give it a bit of a gap. So this will, for example, move it 5 millimeters away from the sensor once it's homed. And underneath that, you can actually have the values of your after your machine has homed. So if you want to call that position 0 or position 100, depending on which side your sensor is. Underneath that, we have added a few more things because a lot of people have been asking about customization. So one is request home on startup. So this is most of the time this will be used because you need to home your machine every time you start up, because the controller needs to know where it is. So if I keep on pressing the tab key and I'll come all the way down here and I'll press the space bar. So what's going to happen is every time when MASSO is going to start up, it's going to blink the home button and ask the user to every time home the machine. The next option is for e-stop. So when you press e-stop, most of the time, because as a safety feature, you'll be connecting your stepper or servo motor drives through the enable pin for safety. So what happens is the motors will actually stop kind of depending on the load at a different position. So the controller will actually miss some of the position. So it's generally a good idea to enable this. So what's going to happen is every time you press e-stop, the homing alarm will also come in and it will tell you to home the machine after you press the e-stop. And so we are all done in this menu and we simply press escape. It's already saved in the memory, so it's all done. Next is spindle. So I'll probably take you guys through this a bit later when we actually do the spindle upgrade for Aaron. You come to general settings. So in here you can set up your machine to be by default working in millimeters or inches, and there's a new option underneath here too. So basically it's auto load G code on power up. So with this new version, if you have a production job and every time you want that program to automatically load up on startup, you take this. So what's going to happen is when MASSO is going to start, or every time you insert the USB key to MASSO, it will look for autoload.nc file, and if it finds that file, it's going to automatically load that file, and then you can just hit cycle start after that. The next on the menu is lubrication. That's where you actually put your timing value. So if you have an electric pump that lubricates your axis, rails or something else, so you can actually connect that to one of the outputs on the MASSO. So if you want to run that, let's say after every 1 hour, you put that in there. I'm pressing tab to go between different boxes. So, and then you want to actually lubricate it for 10 seconds. So we do 10 here. So what's going to happen is after 1 hour, the pump will be switched on for 10 seconds and it will actually lubricate your axis. So pressing escape, save that. The next is tool changer. So in here you can actually change the tool changer type. So if it's a manual tool changer or linear tool changer. So I'll leave it to a manual tool changer because most of the hobbyist machines are manual tool changers. So when we set it to manual tool change, what's going to happen is every time there's a M6 command in your G code file that is basically to change a tool, the machine's gonna go into feed hold and you will get a message on the screen telling you what tool to load, and you load that tool and press enter, and then you can resume your program. So I'll press escape, and the next is our X-axis setup. So that's where we put in all the values for the pitch. What kind of pitch Aaron has for his ball screw on his axis. So we will actually put these values in after talking to Aaron, because at this stage I don't know what his calibration values are, but we'll be doing that. So that's where you put the pitch. So let's say if it's a 5mm ball screw on the axis, you put 5. And the pulses per revolution of your stepper or servo drive. So basically that's the pulses needed to do one complete revolution. So if Aaron's machine is set up, the drive is set up for 1600, so that would mean is if we give it 1600 pulses, that will do one revolution. The maximum feed rate depends on the machine, the motor type, it's a stepper, it's a servo, what sort of load you have, how much inertia you have. So you basically decide that and you put the maximum feed rate. So this will be the maximum feed rate the controller will maintain. So even if in the G code, if you have a maximum feed rate of 2000, it will only run this axis to 1000 feed rate. So that's kind of the limit of the machine that the controller will watch and always keep under the limit. the acceleration at which you want to accelerate and de-accelerate your axis. Again, depends on how heavy your axes are, what kind of loads you have, the inertia and all those things. Next is your minimum and maximum travel. So this is really important because this is what tells MASSO the maximum travel of your axis. So if example, right now we have just 100 millimeters. So if x-axis on Aaron's machine, let's say, only does 100 millimeters, what's going to happen is every time we do a jog or a rapid, the machine will always stay within the limit. So every time it will try to go over 100 millimeters, it's going to automatically stop and rather than overshooting and hitting something. With this new version, we've also enabled and added a soft limits for G-code. So if your G-code has a command that tells the x-axis to go above 100 millimeters, you're going to get an alarm on the screen, and MASSO will actually bypass that motion, and it won't do that motion, and it will stop your G-code, show an alarm on the screen. So that's a big safety thing, that it will never overshoot. We'll probably do a quick demo of this if we have time today, and I would like to show you something on the screen that how it reacts and how you can use that to safely work on your machines. So we can do that, and then invert direction. That's basically if your axis is running the opposite way. The positive and the negative are running the opposite way, so you can simply invert that. That will fix that issue. Slave to axis, it's not available on X, Y and Z axis, so that's why it's disabled here. So I'll press escape. The Y and the Z axis is similar. I would like to show you the A and the B axis now because it's a bit different. The main difference is that you have the choice to slave. So on big gantry type machines, for let's say Y or X axis, generally you have two motors on the same axis. So if I actually press tab and take this, so this will slave the A axis to my X axis. What's going to happen is when I home my machine, MASSO is going to move the X and the A axis towards the sensors, and after triggering the X and the A sensors, so there'll be two separate sensors, the system will line up the axis, and after that all the G codes that you give to do any motion on X axis will be fully synchronized. So you'll be running two motors with the same command. So A axis can be slaved to your X axis. I'll press escape. We go to B axis, and then for B axis you can slave your B axis to a Y axis if you want to do it. But if you want to have your axis independently used for kind of controlling the angle of a knife or something, then you can untick the slave option. That way you'll actually have 5 fully synchronized axes and you can independently control them. And the last one in this menu is save and load settings. So I'll press enter. So this is really useful for machine manufacturers. So if someone is manufacturing any particular type of machine, and they're doing making a few hundred machines a month or something, so they actually calibrate everything on the screen, and then they can actually save these settings. So I'm going to hit go to save, and I press enter. So it's just saved all the settings of this particular machine, the machine bed, minimum maximum limits, homing sequence, the feed rates, everything about that machine on the file on the USB. And in production, they can simply load that file from USB. So they can plug in new MASSO onto their machines, just hit plug in the USB, hit load file, and all the settings will be done. The machine will be ready, calibrated, ready to ship. Next we're going to jump to the inputs menu. So I'm going to press tab. So now the cursor has moved to this menu. I'll just press page up. and go to the top of it. So over here, the way it is, the layout's done. So you have the name of your inputs on this side and the description of the function, what it does, and then you can actually invert the status. And on the rightmost side, you can see the status in real time. So this is really useful. So if you're trying to set up the machine or try to debug if something's not working, then you can actually see the inputs going high and low. So I'll quickly show you. So at the moment, e-stop is showing high because it's not been pressed. So what I'll do is that go and hit e-stop. So you can't see it, it's behind the screen. So I'll just hit e-stop and you see it going low. So you can see this in real time, what your inputs are doing and what MASSO is, how MASSO is reacting to it. So I'll just undo that. It's gone high again. So that's for e-stop. Then you have your encoder signals. So encoder is basically to see the RPMs on your machine, and it's mainly used on the lathes for threading. So you can see the A, B signal. So if you're testing your encoder, as you're turning your encoder, you'll see the signals go high and low. And then you have all these signals for your MPG. So starting from this version 3, we fully support the MPG. So you'll have the hand wheel signals coming in, the selector switches, the resolution switches, so you can see the status of all of them here. So you can't actually change because these are all predefined functions. So you can only see the status or change the input signal if you want to invert the signal. But if I go beyond this, so you can see 4 analog inputs, you can see the 4 voltages. So if we had something connected to the 4 inputs, analog inputs on the MASSO, you would see the voltages here in real time. So when we go to input 1, if I go page down all the way, you'll see it goes to 32. So these are all the inputs on the MASSO that you have access to now, that you can configure them. So at the moment, the way it was done in the last version of the software is that input 1, 2, 3, they were X, Y, and Z homing inputs, and 8 was the door input. So we'll because most of the people have done the wiring to the machines already, so we'll set it up again in a similar way. So I'm going to press enter here, and you'll see a new menu popping up. So that's where you'll have all these options. So I'm just pressing the arrow key to go down, up. So this is the list of things that you can assign to this particular input. So I'll actually set it up as X home. So I'll go to that point, press enter, and that will actually assign input 1 as the X home sensor input. And I can go to Y. So now you see the X is gone. So because the system knows that I've used the X input on another pin, so it's removed it from the list. So I would go to Y input, enter. I would go to the third input, enter. Select the Z, press enter. And now, so that's X, Y, and Z assigned for these. Now, depending on your sensors, you know, if you have sensors giving inverted output, so you know, rather than wiring up the sensors or putting a little circuit to invert the signals, you can simply press spacebar. So you'll see when I press spacebar, these two boxes changing. So now it's inverted, yes, and you see the signal has gone high. So if you have a sensor that gives you inverted data, you simply press space. If I press space again, it's going to toggle again. So it basically toggles between inverted signal or not. And this is really useful in sensors because there are a lot of switches, sensors, and they give normally connected or normally open signals. And rather than trying to figure out you know, a circuit or a different sensor, you can simply invert the signal and it'll work just normal here. Next, we'll go to input 8. Because again, in the last software version, we had input 8 as the door input. So I'll press enter here and I'll move down. So I'll go to door sensor input, press enter. So now this pin has become the door input. I will quickly move to F2 screen. So in F2, you see you can see 2 boxes blinking. So the first box is basically telling the user that you need to home your machine, and it's telling you to press Ctrl Alt Home to home your machine. So it's an alarm that tells the user that you basically can't run any G code because you haven't homed the machine. So when you're in the home status, you can still jog your machine through the keyboard, MPG, or even PlayStation controller, but you can't run G code, so it's a safety thing. But if you look at the door open alarm, so at this stage, because we don't have anything wired up to the controller, so there's no signal coming in on the controller, so the controller thinks, oh, the door is open, but at this stage Aaron doesn't have a switch wired up to his door. So as an example, I would like to show you how flexible this new version is. So I'll quickly jump back to F1. I'll press F1 here, and now, all right, so now we are back on the F1 screen. So on input 8, that's our door. So what I will do is that press space bar here. As a status, you can see it's showing high signal. I'll press space here, it's going to show low. And if I go to F2, now the door signal alarm has gone. So now the MASSO thinks that the door has been closed. So again, depending on what kind of sensor or switch you have for the door, you can actually use this. Or a lot of people actually don't even wire up their door signals on the controller. So they can actually use this to bypass that and use the MASSO without hooking up the door signal. So now I'll go back to the F1 screen again, and I'll quickly show you what other options you can assign to the pins. So I'll press enter on any other input. So you have A axis, homing sensor, B axis, you have your touch probe input you can configure. You can have a home button. So basically any of these inputs you can assign for a home button. So if you want to have an external buttons on your machine for homing, cycle start, so you can do that. So you can assign home button, cycle start, cycle stop. Now you can see 6 auto load inputs from number 1 to number 6. This is again from production point of view, because some people are using MASSO for production, and they're like, oh mate, we only have 4 kind of jobs that we run on the machine, and we want to easily load the programs. So you can basically assign any of these inputs as auto load 1, 2, 3 or whatever. So what's going to happen is every time, I'll give you an example actually. So let's say I set this to auto load number 4, I press enter. So now input 10 on MASSO is become auto load G code 4 input. So if on the input number 10 on MASSO, if you get a signal through a switch, MASSO is going to look for auto load 4 .nc file on the USB. If it finds the file, it's going to automatically load it. So that's really useful, for production, as I said. So you can hit that switch, that will automatically load that file, and you can have others too. So I'll set up number 1 on the next input. So if you get a signal on number 10, it will load file number 4. If you get a signal on 11, it will load file number 1. Rest you have option to for tool changes. So these are some of the signals to be used for tool changes on mainly lathes, and we're going to actually be adding a bit more on the mill side, but you can assign those signals from your tool changer. So I'll press escape. So again, pressing escape every time you change these automatically gets saved into the internal memory of MASSO, so you don't have to hit save or worry about saving your settings or when to save it. It's automatically being done in the background for you. So I'll hit tab. Now it's the output screen. Again, already if you see on the top, these 2 functions have been already assigned, and it's kind of a similar setup. So you have a description, what it's called, the function, and the inverted status. So for example, these 2 are the signals for your spindle control. So one is the clockwise and the other one is the counterclockwise signal. So these are fixed on the connector itself. So you can't assign any new function to it, but what you can do is you can invert the signal. So I'll press space on this. So you'll see the signal inverted and it's gone high. So what's happening is some drives have inverted logic signal to switch the spindle on and off. So depending what kind of drive you have, you can press space to invert your signals. The rest from output number 1 to 16, you can assign different jobs, and there are 6 relay outputs. You can also assign jobs on that. The difference is 1 to 16 is basically TTL output, so that is 0 to 5 volts output, and that's a low level signal. You'll probably depending what you're trying to control, if it's a high current circuit, then you need to connect an amplifier or little transistor circuit in front of it. But if you want to control relays, so I would connect between pin number 1 and 6. So we got a driver chip on MASSO for controlling relays. You can connect your relay straight to the MASSO without any amplifier circuit. The diagram's on our website, and then you can straight away switch on and off relays. So I'll quickly take you through what options we have available. I'm going to press enter here. So that's the list of all these options again that you have here. So you know, you can have travel light 1, 2, 3. So if you have lights, you know, if you want to show some alarms, the status of the machine, you can assign those. That's the lubrication output. So if you remember, we set the lubrication here, the timer, that if you want to lubricate after 1 hour for 10 seconds or something, so that'll be your output. So for example, a lot of times those lubrication pumps, they're switched on through a relay. So I'll just press escape, and I'll go to, let's say, relay 1. So I'll go page down, up arrow key, so relay 1, press enter here, and now I'll actually select the lubrication and press enter. So what's happened is relay 1 output has just been set to lubrication. So what's going to happen is, if you connect a relay on relay 1 output on the MASSO, so whatever we set here will be passed on to that output. So as we did on this one, basically after 1 hour, this output will trigger the relay on for 10 seconds and switch it off. And you can assign other functions. I'll just quickly move there. So for your coolant, mist, control, clamp your chuck, unclamp your chuck, you can assign outputs. For tool changes, you can set that. And also if you want to have a custom control, maybe automatic feeder or something, to feed new material in, or to trigger an alarm, you want to do something like that. So we actually have 16 M62 and M63 options. So let's say I want to assign this P1 to this output 13. I'll press enter here. So what's just happened is pin number 13 is our P1 output. So if in your G code, if this MASSO gets a G code M62.P1, then this pin will trigger high, and if you get M63P1, this pin will go low. So you can use this in any combination to send commands to maybe a robotic arm to load new material in, or as I said, maybe just have a buzzer. So when your job's done, you switch this on, and buzzer in your workshop, and you know the job's done. You know, it depends. So it's highly configurable. You can, you know, put that in your G code, whatever you want to do, it will do that. So yeah, that's the basic layout. We'll be updating our documentation on our website soon, but that's why you know, me and Aaron decided, we've been trying to do you know, catch-up videos for a long time, and we thought this is the perfect time. We'll actually you know, get together and do a video together. So you know, because this new version is kind of the layout is very different from the last one, so I think the video is going to be much helpful. And also by doing these videos, the whole idea is we want to know your feedback, because again, all these screens, you know, this has been the feedback that you guys been giving for months now, and you know, we really want to listen what you guys you know, want as features added. So you know, if you don't like the layout, you like it, please comment, email us, and you know, we would love to hear from you guys. So that's pretty much it from that point of view. We might be doing some quick videos, shots actually after this, and we'll try to take you through some screens, especially on the main screen. We'll hook up a little MPG hand wheel and even a PlayStation controller, because they are fully supported in this version now. Okay, so Aaron's machine is all up and running now. So we spent some time setting up the axes. So we calibrated all the axes with his ball screw pitch. The controller now knows the X, Y, and Z limits. So when we are trying to run the machine, it won't overshoot or anything. So it's fully running now. So we'll do a quick demo of a few things that we've released in this version. So I'm going to start off with more control options. So with this release, we are supporting full MPG hand wheels, including all the 5 axes. And we're also supporting PlayStation controllers. So as you guys know, you can buy an off-the-shelf PlayStation controller, wired or wireless, and you can follow the wiring diagram on a website. With the controller, you can actually move the machine bed, as I'm doing now. You can move your Z-axis. You can even do job offsets. You can do touch-ups for your tools. So it's all possible with the controller. So you can actually be moving with the switch to your X axis. Then you can turn and move your bed. You can move to Y axis, as you can see, E-stop, all those. And while you're running the jobs, you can actually also do feed overrides using the hand wheel. So I'll quickly show you how do you do that. So I'm going to grab the keyboard. We'll actually go to F2. So that is the screen where you actually run all your G codes. So F11 would change the feed override option. So if I turn the hand wheel now, if you see over here, it's 100%, and I can actually slow it down. So it's slowing down to 80%, all the way to 1%. If I press F12, so this becomes the spindle override. So if I turn the wheel now, so you can see the spindle speed override is working. So loaded this file that we've made in Fusion 360, and a bit of arcs and curves, just to see how the whole machine runs on MASSO. So I'll go to F2. I'm going to press Ctrl R to start my file. So here we go.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video on Jatinder and the MASSO CNC controller from Hind Technologies. Big thank you to Jatinder for flying all the way down from Sydney to Melbourne, and no doubt he came down for the coffee, and the weather's always better. So thank you, Jatinder. Thanks for coming down today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
And how can people contact you if they want more information about giving you feedback about the MASSO, or they want to find out about the MASSO for themselves? What can they do? Yeah, sure.
Firstly, we're so thankful to everyone who's supported us all this time, letting us know what features you need, what will help you. So in the future, please give your views. Maybe you can visit our website. So it's hindtechnology.com, or you can go on YouTube and search for Hind Tech or MASSO CNC. You'll find some videos. You can leave your comments, and give us some feedback how we can make it easier for you guys to use your machines and machine easily. So I'll be really looking forward to getting more information, and looks like I'll be traveling a bit more to Melbourne and having a good time with Aaron, and creating more videos and trying to understand and create something that's helpful for everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, there you have it. So thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next video. See you later.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.